This is a Rain of Books book talk. We're talking about the Dark Tower series, Book 2, The Drawing of the Three.
So this is Stephen King's epic quest series. It's not horror, so if you're into dark fantasy, Stephen King set something ambitious with this story. Liked book 1 as much as I liked it. I absolutely love book 2 because the gunslinger, he's your alpha male. He's on this journey to find no less, I think, than the meaning of life. You know, what is the Dark Tower? So this is a spoiler cast. Go check out spoiler-free video review and Goodreads review. But this is basically Roland on this journey. The guy is tougher than nails. Nothing can stop him. He's like a dog with a bone. So book 1 sets up how epic this story really is, as overused as that word it might be. Book 2 goes off the rails with a completely different direction. What happens to Roland? Roland actually is on the beach trying to have these 3 people drawn to him, and then something unexpected happens. Our hero gets a little hurt, I think is the right word.
Yes, well, I'd like to greet everybody by saying, "Did it, chick, my fuzz?" So Stephen King did something at the beginning of the story that I, as a writer, could not bring myself to do, and that is our main character starts losing appendages, fingers, and he's losing toes, and it's making me cringe because when I'm into a story, I need my main character to be whole until he can get to the end, and maybe he can lose some things while he's fighting the ultimate bad guy at the end. So that was a little disturbing to me, but a good choice overall because it surprised me. Second, Stephen King made a choice here. These 3 that were being drawn to Roland, he actually had to go into their world to kind of go in their heads, and Josh can probably explain a little better about how they were drawn, but it was all set in the 20th century. I'm not necessarily fond of things being set in the 20th century. I think that's been a bit overdone in the 20th century. So that kind of pulled me out of the story because here's Roland in this post-apocalyptic world, and now we're going into the 20th century, you know, New York in the 80s. However, I thought the characters he picked for this part of the story were outstanding. He had a demon, which was a guy who was a junkie. He was on heroin. And then he had Odetta Holmes, who was a schizophrenic, and she was the creepiest of the characters and had some very horrible things happen to her. So very compelling characters he gave us.
Yeah, Stephen King, he created characters that Roland would have to depend on because number one, he's dying because he's poisoned from these lobstrosities, these huge Didichick monsters on the beach that actually crippled him. So he goes through 3 magical doors. He pops inside these people's heads. He's out of his own reality, and he's in this culture that is totally foreign to him. He's flying in an airplane. He's dealing with a heroin junkie. So it's awesome. I mean, the action in the story is incredible. It shows you how he's this person who's focused, who's hardcore. Nothing can rattle him. Even him dying in his death throes on the beach. He knows that he has a mission. He's very single-minded, and I love how Odetta Holmes, the schizophrenic who has a very racist, very vicious, antisocial, psychotic woman, and she's a black woman who's been abused. She was pushed as a child. Was she pushed as a child? She was basically pushed by this person that crippled her. So it's like, how can these people help Roland? So there's this big gun battle with the junkie with the mafia, and that was awesome. Then Odetta Holmes, they drag her back from New York into their world, and she's intentionally trying to stop them from getting to the 3rd door. And it's like she's plotting to kill them, and just like she's as smart as Roland, and so it's this battle of the wills, and he's trying to. It's like a chess match, and it's just absolutely amazing. The character growth, the conflicting feelings. They're really like this journey is on the edge of the cliff. Will he survive? So Stephen King really explored a whole bunch, and he made me believe that things might fail. Would he die? We're talking about possessing their minds. Would he jump into another one of their bodies? None of that happened permanently, but it was really good twisting stuff, I think.
At the time that Detta Walker or / Odetta Holmes was just acting like dead weight while they were trying to drag her across the beach, it was really horrible to read about at the time, but when I look back on the story, it really makes me laugh because she just was and then she talked smack to him the whole time they were trying to drag her along. It was pretty funny. But I think Stephen King had a couple of agendas in the story that were pretty clear. One, I think he had a personal struggle with drugs, which is why it was interesting that the demon was heroin. Also, I think he really was moved by the whole civil rights movement, the inequality that blacks, African Americans experienced in this country, because that was a big piece of why Detta Walker or Odetta Holmes was the way that she was. In fact, it was someone who just out of hatred had dropped a brick on her head that I think actually caused the brain damage and turned her to be schizophrenic. Or anyway, I might have looked into that a little bit much, but she experienced a whole lot and was a very hateful person herself, and that's what made her so compelling as a character. And then Josh, the third character, which really was kind of death, wasn't it? I mean, he got into the head of this guy we called the Pusher, and that turned out to be the guy that actually had hurt Odetta Holmes previously. So I really didn't know what the third character was. I thought it was Death, or was it Roland? I wasn't really sure.
But that was the amazing, fourth, fifth, sixth twist in the story. That the climax was how Roland got into this psychopath. The third person was no one that could help him. He just took control of his body, and it was like the awesome, Hollywood blockbuster movie where Roland was in the guy's body, taking control, saying, "Okay, I got to get the drugs because I'm being poisoned." So we're talking medical, antibiotics. So he had to sit here and try to hurry and to get back to his body. So he went to a gun store, and he's like just drooling over all these bullets because it's like a wealth of ammunition that didn't exist in his world. I love how everything in this world, we're so wealthy, and everything is so abundant. And he looks at us, we're these dead-eyed, soft-bodied souls, and he's like, you don't realize all the miracles around you. But my favorite part of the book was him in this last section where he's running from the cops. He's looking at, saying, "You would never make it as a gunslinger in my world." And he would pummel these two cops, and then he would encounter another one that shot him and almost got him. And it was just a good climax. And the very end was when Roland was like, "You know what? I'm going to give this guy his own medicine, the Pusher." He jumped in front of a moving train, and at the same time, he exited his body back onto the beach. And there was it was like, wow, that was pretty poetic justice. And then there's the big showdown with Odetta on the beach with Eddie. And then it's everybody, they become buddies, right? Everybody survives. But the ending, you have to read it to understand just how incredible, this whole drama plays out.
Did a chick.
that was part of the climax, but we're not going to spoil the whole thing. Well, you just go see if they survive the monsters and each other. But thanks for joining us on this book talk, rainbooks.com. Check us out on Stitcher and iTunes and YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.